Sports Talk Chicago. Here with Jon Zaghloul, and we are back and ready for today's special guest. He's covered the Bulls for 30 plus years, and today serves as the Bulls insider at NBC Sports Chicago. Please welcome Casey Johnson to the program. Casey, it's great to have you on. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being here. What's your evaluation of this hectic but very exciting Bulls offseason?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, everybody's kind of curious to see how it plays out. But the stock answer I've been giving everybody is it's undeniable that they've significantly upgraded their talent. I mean, how that coalesces and what that means in terms of wins losses, I have no idea. That's why they play the games. But I think you can kind of see not only just with the vibe around training camp, but also in the preseason games, just the style of play that to me is going to translate regardless of the competition they're facing. I'm not saying they're going to win every game, but the way they're sharing the ball offensively, the way they're reading and reacting offensively, the way they're aggressively getting in passing lanes defensively, all that stuff to me can translate. Doesn't mean, again, they're going to be knocking off the Nets or the Bucks and going to the Eastern Conference Finals, but it just seems like it's going to be certainly a more entertaining product to watch on the floor this season.
Who stood out to you most so far in the preseason?
That's a good question, but to me, it's a pretty simple answer. Lonzo Ball. To me, he's one of those guys that you kind of watch from afar and you have a appreciation for, and you see him on League Pass or you see him once or twice a year because he's been in the Western Conference, and you're like, okay, pretty solid player, and clearly, last year was on the rise. But man, when you watch him up close and personal, he's really damn good, man. Defensively, he's so good. It just seems like he always kind of knows where to be on the floor. He anticipates very well. He uses his length to get into passing lanes. He fights over screens. He picks up full court occasionally. He's better than I thought he was defensively, and I thought he was pretty good. And then offensively, obviously he shot the ball very well in the preseason, kind of picking up where he left off last year, where he kind of placed himself in the good shooter category with the Pelicans in that season he had. So, Caruso's been good, very good. Levine's been Levine, DeRozan's been DeRozan. You know what you're going to get from those guys, but Ball to me has been the standout performer for the Bulls during the preseason.
Let me ask you this. What's the significance of having a real point guard in Lonzo Ball? That's not a knock to Kobe White, but Lonzo Ball is a traditional point guard. What's the significance offensively bringing him in?
Yeah, I mean, I would even say that it's not even so much that he's playing. I mean, he is a traditional point guard, but to me, the Bulls aren't really playing like, he's in pick and roll and he's got the ball in his hands all the time. They've got multiple creators, multiple ball handlers. To me, what he's just really good at is he's good at pushing the ball up the floor, either via the pass or the shot. He's always looking up the court, and he doesn't care if he gets the assist or if he gets the hockey assist. He's just trying to get the ball moving and get actions going. And he's just always focused on setting up his teammates. So in those realms, he is likely, more of a traditional point guard, but he's really good at just seeing the floor and just seeing, who needs to get it going and how to get the ball off the floor and all those things. So in that sense, he's been really, really good.
You think he'll be the most impactful move this offseason, even more than DeRozan?
I think they're both really powerful, just in the sense that DeRozan to me has value beyond what he does on the court, because when you go out and you lay out that kind of financial commitment to a guy like that, you're not only upgrading your talent base, you're saying to Zach Levine, you're not going anywhere. We're building around you. We're in win now mode. So the DeRozan acquisition to me has benefits beyond what he does on the court. But on the court, I think he's really, really good. I mean, he's been one of the best isolation scorers in the league the last couple of years. He's another guy you can go to in crunch time. He's another guy you can go to take the scoring pressure off Zach Levine. He gets to the line a lot, which was a huge problem area for the Bulls last season. Just offensively, he solves a lot of problems for this team.
How far could the Bulls go this year, realistically? Where do you think they line up in the Eastern Conference?
I mean, to me, the range is anywhere from I think if everything goes incredibly well, it could be in that home court advantage 3-4 range. But that would be everything going well, them staying healthy, them playing at just an incredibly high level. To me, I've got them in the range of like 4 to 8. I think they're going to be better than some people think. I think if you're fighting for a plan, to me, that season's kind of a failure. I mean, you've made a huge commitment to win now. You've expended some draft capital, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, you've got to be in that, top 6 where you're not even worrying about the play-in. And based on what you're seeing in the preseason, that potential is certainly there.
What's the justification for the 8 seed? Because I've seen a lot of people float. The Bulls will only be an 8 seed. They can't go any higher. There's so many teams ahead of them. Is there any justification or truth to that?
You mean in terms of why people are saying that it can only be 8?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the national media members and also Vegas are nonplussed by this team, and there are question marks. I've been painting a pretty rosy picture to this point, but there are size concerns, rim protection concerns. It's clear they're going to try to play an aggressive defensive style where they're trapping a lot. I'm sorry, they're switching a lot and they're getting into passing lanes, et cetera. Can that hold up defensively? So yeah, I can understand. And the Bulls made a huge move last trade deadline and then didn't even make the plan. So I think people are in kind of a prove it mode, and I get that. I just think that I've been around Zach a long time. He just feels like a different player. He just feels like he's on such a mission, and he's got talent around him now, like significant talent for the first time since he's been here in Chicago. So I don't know. I just feel like this has a chance to take off a little bit.
Casey Johnson here on Sports Talk Chicago. Casey, what's the rest of the Bulls bench look like?
Well, Caruso is going to play a huge role because defensively he fills a lot of needs as well. I mean, all we heard last season was Billy Donovan bemoaning kind of their inability to control point of attack. He's very good at always blowing screens up and just being annoying and a physical presence on the perimeter. So he'll play a lot. I still think Kobe White's got a big role in this team. He's got to get back from his offseason shoulder surgery, but when last season, the way he closed last season, where he was probably not making as many decisions with the ball. And as a quick aside, like I felt like the point guard criticism got so over the top with Kobe that I think it kind of overshadowed some growth that he showed in that department. I thought overall he had a pretty good season last season. And I think he's kind of getting overlooked a little bit because he's going to be in more catch and shoot situations. And he was in a lot of situations last year where he was on that strong side paired with Vucevic, and then you've got to pick your poison defensively. So Kobe's going to play a huge role for this team. I see Troy Brown Jr. playing a huge role for this team. He's just a really versatile kind of, as he puts it, Swiss Army knife, jack of all trades wing, and they're pretty thin at wing. And if his shot stays improved, which he says he's put a lot of work into, that could be a weapon off the bench. And then the unknown is up front because Tony Bradley Jr. has been sidelined throughout preseason with a sore back. That's been a disappointment because, as I mentioned before, rim protection is a concern, and he's 6'10". Alize Johnson's played well, given his opportunity off the bench, but he is undersized. And again, the Bulls are going to try to play undersized a lot, but can that hold up? So that to me are kind of the significant pieces to the Bulls bench.
Why do you
Derrick Jones Jr. also is a wild card. I don't know enough about him yet. I don't know how that's going to play out. He was sidelined a little bit early with an ankle, but he's looked pretty good the last couple of preseason games. So he's another piece I should mention as well.
Why do you think the criticism for White was over the top last year?
Because he's, and a lot of it, initially a lot of it, I participated. I just called it like I saw it. He's not a point guard. Okay. But so to me, he's not a traditional point guard. Right. But sometimes our tourist card show us likes to remind us, like, what is a traditional point guard these days, right? So I feel like just because he's not a traditional point guard, people got so focused on that they overlooked like his strengths. And he's still a very explosive scorer. He's someone who cares about winning and trying to make the right play. He's someone that I thought his decision making grew. He's not like John Stockton. He's not going to like lead the league in assists one year, but it's not like he was awful throughout the season. He's just not a traditional point guard. So I'm still buying Kobe White stock. I can't claim to know what management's thinking on that because they obviously added a lot of backcourt pieces, and he'll be coming up for a rookie extension after this season. So that's something down the road to obviously monitor and acknowledge. But I'm still buying Kobe White stock. I think he's got a big role off the bench for this team this year.
You think he gets that extension?
That's too speculative. That's down the road. You don't know what's going to happen this season and stuff. So that's a story. Have me on a year from now. We can chat that topic up.
How do you grade Billy Donovan this year? What's your report card, or how do you set a benchmark for Billy Donovan as a coach?
Well, to me, it's one thing I think sometimes gets overlooked with him because he's coached such high profile names and such Hall of Fame talent, from Oklahoma City to I'm not saying he's Hall of Fame talent here, but now he's got 3 All-Stars on his roster here. So he's always had big names and a lot of talent to coach. But I think sometimes what gets overlooked is he gets teams to guard. I mean, he had 4 top 10 defenses in his 5 seasons in Oklahoma City. Last year, even with kind of a, disjointed year and a very young team and a changing roster, the Bulls finished 11th defensively, just outside the top 10. So that's where I'm going to be watching, because I think offensively, I think this team's got a lot of firepower and a lot of options and a lot of versatility. So can he get an undersized team to guard and to hold up with that style that they've played to this point in the preseason? I think Ball and Caruso will be a big part of that. I think Vucevic, he's sometimes panned as an awful defender, and that's because, he's not a guy who can guard like smaller players in space, which some big men need to do in this day and age. But the Bulls have him in a situation where he's not in that situation. He's kind of playing a soft drop, and he's not a bad team defender. He's in the right position a lot of times. He's a good defensive rebounder. So, I'm going to be kind of watching from that angle, like how the Bulls progress defensively. And as I said, I mean, Billy historically has got his teams to guard.
What do you expect out of Vucevic this year? Could he replicate last year's post-trade deadline numbers, or do even better?
I think it's going to be hard just because there's so many more scoring options now. But, we've talked to him about that. I mean, all these guys are at a stage in their career where they don't really care about numbers. They've achieved individual success. Only DeRozan's had a deep playoff run, a conference finals with the Raptors. They're tired of losing. And so, they understand that sacrifice is going to be part of it. Now, that said, it's been clear that Vucevic is still going to have a very important offensive role. I mean, you still need to post up occasionally in this game, and he's their main, obviously, post-up threat. He's very, very adept at pick and pop, even though he hasn't shot the ball well in preseason. That's going to come around just because historically his numbers say they will. He's a very good passer for a big man. So you're going to see him in 2-man game with multiple options now. Before, it was basically just him and Levine. Now you can run screen roll with him and DeRozan. You can try it with him and Ball at times. So he's still going to have a big role offensively. I'm just not sure he's going to have quite the number that he's had, like maybe to the 2010 level that he had with the Magic, because he was the number 1 option. He's not. He's going to be the number 1 option at times, but the Bulls have 3 number 1 options in Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic. So it's going to be shared sacrifice by a lot of guys.
I've seen some talk that Zach Levine could be an early preseason candidate for MVP potentially. What does he have to do this year to get to that point? Do you think it's possible?
I think that's a pretty big jump. I think that's a pretty big jump. I mean, there's just so much talent in the league now. I think All NBA would be kind of more a realistic goal, and it's one that he has mentioned. And it certainly would cost the Bulls a lot of money, because then he'd be Supermax eligible. And we've seen how that scenario played out with Jimmy Butler. But even All NBA, you start doing those guard spots, and man, it fills up pretty quickly. Although, 2 perennial All NBA guys in the backcourt are in flux right now with Kyrie and Ben Simmons. So I think that's a more realistic goal than MVP. I will say this: I was among the chorus of people who kind of thought, all right, there's no way Zach's going to be able to replicate the numbers he put up last season, because he had just a monster season with 27 points and just that efficiency. His shooting splits were ridiculous. I think he was at like 50, 41, and like 84. But what I would say is, I don't know, man, he may not score 27 points a game, but that efficiency could be there, because with those people alleviating defensive pressure or offensive burden on him, and also the inability for teams to load up on him and double team him all the time, he's going to be in a lot of catch and shoot situations rather than always having to create. And he's also going to face more single teaming. So I don't know, man. I could be wrong on that, and we'll see how it plays out. But I just know that I'm telling you, man, it just feels like Zach is like one of those guys who's ready to just bust through. I mean, you saw it with the ascension to first all-star berth, boom, first Olympic berth, boom, huge talent around him, that edge about him, wanting to improve defensively. He's going to have a pretty big season from my perspective.
And as you mentioned a moment ago, which is true, this is the first time I think in his whole career where he's really had decent enough talent around him to help prop him up. That's going to make a big difference, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can say, okay, early in his career in Minnesota, you had Cat and Wiggins, but they were so young, and so it's just not the same. I mean, these are established guys. I mean, DeRozan is an incredibly established scorer, and Zach said it best on media day. Like, this is not like some veteran mentor, bringing in to offer sage advice. He's still he called him in the prime of his career. I don't know about that, but he scored 20 points a game like eight straight seasons. This dude is still a sniper, particularly at the mid range. He gets to the line. He's become a very very efficient isolation scorer. So yeah, this is different. I mean, this is, other than the Olympic team, this is the most talent Zach's been around for a full season.
Casey Johnson, still here on Sports Talk Chicago. Casey, a few more questions before we finish up. First off, is it true that you tried out for the D League, now the G League?
I've tried to. I was going to joke and say try to block that memory out of my brain pan, but I don't want to joke because it's actually an incredibly memorable experience. And yes, it is true. You can Google the experience. Was when I worked for the Chicago Tribune, and they were gracious enough to fly me down to Arlington, Texas, where at age 40, I tried out for the then D League, now G League. And I had to keep reminding myself, because as a former Division III basketball player, my competitive juices kicked in, but I had to keep reminding myself that I was down there as a reporter, not a basketball player. I particularly reminded myself that when I was matched up against a four-year starter from TCU who had played professionally in Germany, whose name currently escapes me, in my first matchup down in the post. And he turned and did a lob dunk off of an alley-oop from the wing. And I was like, okay, I could have guarded this when I was 21, much less 40. And former Spurs great and father of Jaren Jackson Jr., now Jaren Jackson Sr., was my coach. And he immediately pulled me and laughingly told me to watch from the sideline. And then I did get a few garbage baskets, but it was an awesome experience. And I went down there to kind of detail how people are still chasing their dreams in various ways, including myself. My only dream was to not blow out an ACL, so I succeeded in that.
Did you come close to earning a contract? Because I thought at the end of it, right, somebody earned a contract. Did you come close? What did the coach tell you?
I did not. Like I said, I got a couple of garbage baskets. I hit a pick and pop jumper. I remember that. But no, it was an awesome experience. And like I said, I was down there as a reporter and aging Division III hoopster, but it was quite the fun life experience for sure.
Casey, before we finish up today, last question. Do you know how to raise your hand on Zoom?
Yeah, I'm getting better. You're alluding to my guy, Chris Mannix, my longtime foil on Twitter, Sports Illustrated's own Chris Mannix, making fun of me one time when one of the rare times I could not find the raise hand button. He of course was there to memorialize it with a screenshot where I looked very clueless as usual, looking for the raise hand feature. But I've gotten, like most people, I've gotten pretty adept at Zoom, including this very discussion right here. So take that, Mannix, and go buy some hair gel, Mannix, while you're at it.
Casey, thank you so much for joining me. Best wishes, of course, for the season and covering it. I'm sure we'll catch up again very soon. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let's do it again during the season, John. I always enjoy it. Thanks, man.